It's Bigfoot Collectors Club with Bryce and Michael. I know a ghost story or two. Let's do this.
Hello and welcome back.
Every time.
Bigfoot Collectors Club episode 16.
Awesome. We're getting down there in the episode count.
Up there.
Up there.
We're getting down.
You know what I mean.
We're getting up there.
Getting down with it.
We're not Benjamin Buttoning this shit.
Shit.
We're getting bigger.
Mm-hmm.
We're not, wait.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He started little, then he got big, then he became a little baby. Then what happened to him? Did he disappear?
He got an...
Did he go back into his mother's vagina?
I don't know.
I don't either. It's the one Fincher film I've never seen, and I read the short story years ago, but I don't remember. Hi, guys. It's Bigfoot Collectors Club. I'm your host, Michael McMillan. With me always is your other host.
I'm Bryce Johnson.
And we have producer Riley Bray with us.
Hi, guys.
Hey, what's going on? And we got a great guest this week. Our first guest canceled. Canceled last minute.
Rude.
It's okay. We're going to get him back on a different show. So I phoned the first person I knew I could rely on in an emergency. She hasn't been. Actually, that is the opposite.
How many times did I fake cancel on you?
Oh, my God. We dated briefly, and
my
I think we
gosh.
broke up because you were
Why are
45 minutes late all the time.
Oh, no.
But anyway,
Why do
you
start
haven't been on the
out
show
like
yet
that?
because I knew that
you.
I knew that you were going to be here in a jam.
Ugh.
It's Maria Thayer.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't give you
Yeah.
much of an intro.
That
Just
was a
that we
pretty good
dated.
intro.
That's all you said. Is we
My
dated.
ex-girlfriend list. It's
Ugh.
Maria Thayer.
Oh my God.
Maria is an
is-
actress and performer. You've seen her on Strangers with Candy. You've seen her on Those Who Can't on True TV. You've seen her appear on New Girl. You've seen her appear on what's something else you've done recently? Oh, Gotham. You've been on Gotham.
Sure.
She's look her up. You guys are gonna. She's the best. So listen, before we talk to Maria, and feel free to jump in anytime you want.
Oh,
Maria.
great. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm kicking things off this week.
Okay.
This is a surprise for everybody. I have a new segment, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And it's called BCC News.
Ooh. Bing,
Wait,
bing,
wait,
bing,
wait,
bing,
sorry.
bing, 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 bing.
BBC News? That's already taken.
BCC News
Oh, BCC News.
for Bigfoot Collectors Club.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
not-
Riley,
BFC.
everyone be quiet because Riley, you're gonna throw in a little news music here.
Yeah.
It's BCC News. All right, so the first story we have today is about a woman from Northern California who's suing the California State Wildlife and Fish Department for suing to prove the existence of Sasquatch.
I did not know that.
I just put this up on our Facebook page, so you can find the link there.
Wow.
Claudia Ackley, a California mom from Crestline, California, is filing a lawsuit with the California Fish and Wildlife Department to have Sasquatch recognized as an official species living in San Bernardino. Ackley was hiking the Lake Arrowhead area with her two daughters on March 27, 2017, when they came upon something that looked like a Neanderthal-like man creature sitting 30 feet up in the tree. A tree, not the tree. There's plenty of trees around there. I wrote this very quickly. When she reported it to the authorities, they told Ackley that she had just seen a bear. Ackley told ABC7 Chicago News, no, this was no bear. I know what I saw.
Mm-hmm.
She even said the creature made directional hand gestures to signal where she and her children should go to stay out of its way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Very thoughtful.
Yeah.
I know. She there's video of this too, not of the actual creature. Although she did take a video of the incident on her phone from a safe distance. A dark mass can be seen sitting in the tree, but the image is, of course, not clear enough to identify the animal.
Mm.
So she's suing California to have this recognized.
That's
she wants to
wild.
prove that she saw this thing.
That
she
reminds
says it's been
me of,
living here forever. She says it looks in people's windows, and she's like, enough's enough. The state of California has to recognize this thing as an indigenous animal.
You know that? Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, are there any pictures or anything?
Well, there's video footage that we'll put up on our link, but let me
It'll
see if I
probably
can
just be
Google
like
it
a
up.
blurry dark.
It is
blob.
a blurry dark
But maybe you'll see
blob.
that hand gesture, like.
Yeah. She said it gestured like, you go there.
You go there. You know, this reminds me of that Todd Standing account. He's been lobbying the Canadian government to get Sasquatch recognized as part of their wildlife and protected, and to much success actually up there. He's got a pretty crazy documentary called Discovering Bigfoot out on iTunes now, which has probably some of the most either compelling or controversial Bigfoot video images I've ever seen. It's definitely worth checking out.
Wait,
If there is a Sasquatch,
Todd
that
Standing.
it should
I
definitely
don't
be recognized
Is that
and
I think
protected.
Todd Standing
Yeah.
is
You know what I mean? There's just one person, one Sasquatch. It should definitely be on the endangered species list.
Yeah, I would think that it should be.
I got to say for the record, I think Todd Standing's full of it.
Yeah, so do a lot of other people, but that doesn't mean that
This is a doll. This
yeah.
is not a photo of an actual Sasquatch, and he says it is. Sorry, don't come after me. I'm sure. Here's the thing. I bet this guy has seen stuff, but I watched some of the footage that he had on Netflix, and it's like, this is a doll.
Well, you're probably talking about the one they consider the Muppet Bigfoot.
This thing,
Yeah,
that is so fake.
right.
So you think that he like faked it?
I think that he probably
Or he
has
saw a doll in the
seen- I think
wilderness
he has seen.
and then with two pictures
I
of
think
it.
he's seen Bigfoot before, but I think some of the stuff that he uses to prove his stories,
Mm-hmm.
it's just like that Stan, what's his face, who turned out later to be arrested for child pornography, that had all the
geez.
UFO, the great alien stuff. Stan Romanek.
Oh, yeah.
I think that some of these guys do have these experiences, but then listen, I'm speculating here.
Sure.
I'm not trying to call anybody out.
Yeah.
This is
It just
my own
reminded me of the
opinion.
case because he lobbied, a big part of his story was his excessive lobbying to the Canadian government.
I think a lot of that footage is.
I've seen the movie, and I got to tell you, there is some interesting things that are quite compelling. And yeah, you know, there's so much of these cases, and we often discuss this on Bigfoot Collectors Club. Is some of these best cases, you know, you put in a little bit of disinformation or a little bit of tomfoolery, and immediately the case just gets relegated to lore or myth because there's as much proof to disprove it as there is to
Sure.
prove it, and so it almost just gets kind of shuffled into a category, which most of these great cases do, that you can neither confirm nor deny.
Okay, so back to BCC news.
Yes.
We brought up Chicago a moment ago. Speaking of Chicago, a large black entity with features similar of those to the Chicago Mothman was seen near the Illinois-Wisconsin border recently. According to a March 1st post on the WordPress site UFO Clearinghouse, a 37-year-old male truck driver was getting back on the road after a 10-minute pit stop when he spotted what looked like a man hunched over looking at something on the side of the road. As the driver approached, the being stood, turned to face the truck, revealing itself to be, quote, some kind of giant skinny man that looked at him with glowing red eyes.
Yeah.
The creature then spread bat-like wings and flapped them and took off into the night sky.
Awesome.
Cryptozoologist, stop laughing at our show. This is the news.
This is new.
Cryptozoologist.
Uh-huh.
Look, we don't do fake news on this
She's
program.
got me laughing at this.
Cryptozoologist Lon Strickler, who has been investigating the recent wave of 2017 Chicago Mothman sightings on his website, phantomsandmonsters.com, has added the encounter to the website's map of Mothman sightings since it occurred within 100 miles of the city. Stickler has also published a new book about the topic called The Mothman Dynasty. And that's BCC News. So there you go. That's
There
the
you go.
latest in the cryptozoological world.
Maria, have you ever heard of Mothman?
I think I've heard of. I guess it's a man, him. But I don't know. I just found out that he had glowing eyes and
Yeah.
bat wings.
Yeah.
I mean,
Why don't they
That's
call him
exciting.
Batman? They should
Right.
call him Batman.
it's already
All-
taken.
Taken, man.
A lot of these Chicago Mothman sightings, they describe the creature's wings being more bat-like than moth-like.
Mm-hmm.
How
But it
many
is-
sightings are
They've
there?
had over like 57 sightings of this thing in the Chicago area since.
It's a reemergence, really. The most famous case took place in the 60s in a place called Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and it became immediately like cryptid lore because
Lauren Coleman wrote a famous book called The Mothman. It wasn't Lauren Coleman.
Yeah,
write
there was a
Mothman
movie,
Prophecies?
a movie
Oh,
with
sure.
Richard Gere, The Mothman Prophecies.
I've heard of it. I haven't seen
That's
everything
based
that
on the
Richard
actual
Gere's made.
case.
Yeah, so it's a very reputable case because multiple witnesses in and around town saw the same thing.
Oh.
And but it kind of ended in something pretty
Christmas
horrific.
Eve, a bridge
In the
collapsed.
movie or
No,
in
in
real
real
life?
life.
In real life,
The
On Chri-
Mothman made a bridge
Well,
collapse?
they think he was a harbinger of doom. This-
or sort of a prophetic,
yeah, that's a harbinger
cryptid.
of doom.
I guess
It's
so.
a prophet.
Yeah, but you can also be a harbinger of good news, can't you? I mean,
Yeah, but he's a prophet.
He's
harbinger
got
of
glowing.
doom.
He's got glowing red eyes.
I know. I still want to put like a good spin on these recent Mothman sightings.
No, I don't think so. It's a giant black
Ugh.
man-bat creature. Unless it's Bruce Wayne,
I know.
it's not good.
But yeah,
Anyway,
yeah,
here we are.
yeah.
Maria,
Yeah.
what is your personal paranormal history?
Well, we had a paranormal experience last night.
Oh, I forgot. We actually did.
Really?
Yeah. Do you want to tell this story?
Well, I don't know how. So we were doing a.
We're at UCB Franklin
we're-
backstage.
yeah,
We're,
we-
doing our show
yeah,
Gravid Water.
yes.
Real quick plug for Sunday of every month at 7:30.
Yes.
Come be a part of it.
And should I name names?
Actually, don't be a part of it. We're going to be on stage. Just come watch
You
it.
can't be a part of
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
An audience is a part of a performance, though.
Yeah.
Don't
Don't use any last names in this story.
Thomas Middleditch.
Yeah, no. He was great.
He was great. So we were. I had was not very prepared for the show, and so I was running my bits. And
Again, this is why it did not work out between us.
Let her talk.
with Michael, and we're in this room that is like a very narrow room. At the end of it is a bathroom.
It's a dressing room.
It's a dressing room. So the end of it is a bathroom. And Thomas Middleditch.
No, it wasn't Thomas. It was
Yes,
your buddy from.
Yes, it was.
No, oh.
This is why I don't believe any eyewitness
it was that
accounts,
guy-
because no one really remembers anything.
No. But listen,
I would swear on a stack of Bibles right now that it was Thomas Middleditch.
it was not Thomas. He was at the show last night. It was that guy who's on that team Convoy. He's skinny guy, dark hair, glasses. He was the one who walked in. I don't know
Look,
the guy's name.
Oh,
It was not Thomas.
I think it's. I'll tell my version, but I think it was Thomas.
No.
Well, let's just get to what happened.
Anyway, this person that I think was Thomas, Michael thinks was somebody else.
I
And
guarantee-
this
I
is
know
also
for
makes
sure
this
it's not.
this story just like moot almost. Came past us, went into the bathroom, and then
We
and
were talking.
and then someone else that I don't know, a lady came. It was just a one-person bathroom. Came out of the bathroom,
Ooh,
and it
little
was
switcheroo.
like it was a switcheroo, but it wasn't like a lady that looked like Thomas Middleditch.
It was Alex. Alex was the one who walked in. And you stood up and greeted him and gave him a hug. Then he walked to the bathroom and we were talking.
He
and
was
then
there, but I don't.
It was
know if
him.
It was
And then
him.
2 minutes later, a woman came out of the bathroom.
This story is bad because we don't remember.
Well, now we're
Some
but we
major
can't,
part
we
of
can't
it.
start spreading rumors that Thomas Middleditch is a shapeshifter. Plus, Thomas was there for the rest of the night performing the show.
Oh, that
Alex was
actually
not
that
there.
makes it even weirder. If it's your version where Alex was there and then never was appeared again.
Well, guess what? We are clearly this didn't happen because you can't even remember who it was walking in.
No, it did happen. This is the only thing I believe in. This is my
I saw a
I'm going to
guy
start a
named-
podcast about this.
I saw a
particular
guy
thing.
named Alex go into the one-person bathroom, and then a completely different person came out.
That's a little weird.
Did you then check the bathroom to see if anyone was still in there?
There might have been a secret passageway in there.
Or maybe
Hmm.
just some hanky-panky going on and they staggered exit?
Ooh, like Mile High Club style.
Yeah.
Could be.
I mean, this is off topic a little bit, but since you mentioned that you and I dated, the first night I met you, and when I was like, oh, maybe Michael's pretty cute, is you told a story, which I'm sure you told here.
I've told it on this.
Yeah,
With Mary Holland, the ghost story about
Yeah.
Lois Grunow.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
and
that was
it really
cool.
it
That's
really
how I-
piqued my interest.
That's how I get all my ladies. I tell them a ghost story.
Jesus.
the interest only lasts.
Hey, girl.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you by the time I saw something from the beyond.
Wait,
Why don't you sit down next to me?
Is that why
I'll
we're
tell
doing
you.
this podcast?
All
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, I think it is. I'm trying to help people.
Okay, but whether or not we saw a shapeshifter in the bathroom of UCB Franklin,
Yeah.
whether or not it was Thomas Middleditch, I don't think it was him. Maybe he presented himself as somebody different to me.
I mean, I do have had experiences where I do definitely believe in energy, like that. What?
Okay.
That's good.
Yeah, go on.
Oh,
no.
sorry.
I just had an idea. That's why.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Hand went up.
You're so
That's how you get an
expressive, Michael.
idea. You go. You point
He's
your finger towards
raising.
the sky.
Yes. I thought he was telling me to shut up. That you go into a space and you feel an energy and it feels spooky or negative or positive or
Absolutely.
I think that.
Well, speaking of a space that's spooky, I'm surprised that you haven't told us about how you bought a haunted hotel.
I didn't buy it. It was gifted to my mother. But actually, when I was talking about energy, I was thinking about that haunted hotel.
Let's hear about it.
Well, there is supposedly a ghost.
Where is it? First of all, paint the picture.
It's this hotel that was my great grandfather built it, and then he lost it because he was
This is
terrible
in
with
Montana?
money. It was in Montana, yes, in the tiny town of Montana. There used to be a railroad going through there, and they built this big hotel. And then, like 7 years later, the railroad was like, "No, we don't want to do this anymore. We want to reroute." And so the hotel failed, and it went into disrepair. And it's a huge hotel, but like the last person who bought it for like $5,000
And filled it up with old dolls, didn't they?
Well,
Oh my
I mean,
God.
when I saw it as a child, because my mother wanted to take over it. I mean, it was never
It
actually.
sounds like the saddest John Irving novel I've ever
It really
read.
is. It's true. It gets sadder. It's so. But
This
it was
is like a Wes Anderson script that he couldn't get to work, so he abandoned it.
So it was bought by a guy that showed us around when I was a kid, and I just remember the roof was falling. There was rain coming in through the roof. There was rain dropping on my head. There was dead pigeons all around. And then someone else bought it after that, and tried to fix it up, and he eventually died in it and gave it to my mother. He said that
He died in it?
yeah, died in, and he had like 11 cats.
Wow.
But
And this place has a weird energy?
I don't think that he haunts it. I don't think that I don't think he haunts it. I think that he said that there was a ghost named Manny, that was the cook at the hotel. Is that I don't know. Anyway,
May I ask why did he gift it to your mother? I mean, you don't often hear about somebody
Let's not skate
gifting.
past Manny.
Well, you don't
The
often hear
ghost
about
cook.
somebody gifting a hotel to somebody.
Well,
That's the first time I've ever heard
calling
of
it a
something like that.
hotel, I mean, it's a very strong word. It's a big wreck.
Right.
It's not you couldn't pay anyone to stay in it. It has no running water or electricity.
So it's like a decrepitated building.
Yes,
more or
it's
less.
like when you're in it, you're constantly thinking like how much time you have before it falls on your head.
Can we talk about Manny?
Yes. Manny has a room in the top of the hotel. Raymond, who is the person that owned the hotel, he said that he saw Manny a lot. Raymond was also
Emotionally distressed?
well, I don't know if I would like
He was the living embodiment of the hotel
He would-
beyond disrepair?
he would not be on my if something is if I'm hurt, like contact this person. You know what I mean?
He's not on
Right.
your emergency contact.
He's not an
list.
emergency
Let me ask you
contact.
this. If someone who was not Thomas Middleditch walked into the hotel, would he then, within less than 24 hours, insist that it was Thomas Middleditch?
Yes. Are you saying that I'm like Manny?
Yeah.
I mean, not
No,
Manny, Raymond.
I'm just asking. On a scale from Maria's brain to normal, where does Raymond fall
Yeah.
on the scale?
I feel like he's like in the middle of
Does your mom still have the place?
Yeah, she does. She does, and she has a totally different feeling about it. She like loves it, feels happy there, but she really loves it. But she also won't. It's very difficult for her to be upstairs in the hotel by herself.
Has she ever reported seeing anything or?
No.
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 Interesting.
I'm sorry. I'm the most boring
No,
guest in the
no,
world.
not at all.
You
I saw so
inherited
many-
a haunted hotel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
but
amazing.
nothing happened in it.
Well, I think stuff is clear. What are you talking about? There's a ghost of a cook there.
I mean, it looks really creepy. If you were in it, you would want something to.
so what's happening with it right now?
It's my mom. It's on the National Historic Register. It's like my mom is trying to get
Oh,
it
wow.
into a place that people stay. So I shouldn't actually
And
talk
is it being fixed
crap
up?
about it. They need a lot of money to fix the foundation so it doesn't fall.
You might want to capitalize off the fact that it's haunted. People dig
Yeah.
that stuff.
I-
and
Have you
they'll,
been to
That's
Savannah,
true.
Georgia?
Yes, I have.
Because
Yeah.
our listeners have written in about
Really?
yeah, bed and breakfasts that are like they kind of brag that they're a haunted.
I went to
place.
Savannah, Georgia, and I really wanted to see something. When I was a kid, I really was so afraid of seeing a ghost.
Mm.
And now I'd love to see one.
What would that mean for you if you
It
like,
would
saw
mean
a
it would mean
ghost?
everything. If I
Yeah.
saw a ghost, it would mean that there was more than this. It would be the best. I wouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be. No one has been killed by a ghost. You
that
guys-
we know of.
I mean, I think it's safe to say that no one has been killed by a ghost. Wouldn't that be like something that that we would hear about?
Have you ever heard of the Bell Witch of Tennessee? Maybe you need to listen to episode 2.
Yeah, there's.
Is that a ghost or a witch?
It was sort of a poltergeist entity, could have been a demon, and she definitely killed the patriarch of the household. This is in the 1800s. so.
by scaring them to death.
Well, she killed him she made him sick and like killed him in his sleep. She poisoned his food and stuff. It could have been a spoiler alert. It could have been a Phantom Thread situation where maybe the wife was a little sick of this braggadocio farmer.
But I know what you mean. You wouldn't
If I
feel
get
threatened.
Yes, if I get poisoned by a ghost over time, well, shit happens.
Yeah,
It's
true.
At that point, aren't you really to blame? You are eating all these ghost prepared meals.
But I thought like I would see a ghost and then I would as a kid I thought that I would see a ghost and then something awful would happen. And now I know I would see a ghost and I would feel like, whoa, we can live forever.
Yeah.
I would be so happy.
It would confirm the afterlife or something thereof.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
Where do you fall on Bigfoot?
Oh my God. Sure. I feel like all this stuff will probably be. Everyone has a phone in their pocket, like a camera in their pocket. In the next 10 years, if no one has a good picture of Bigfoot, then no.
It's a great argument. I mean,
You
still,
know,
we
it's-
think the best photographic evidence of Bigfoot it took place in 1967. So you bring up a very valid point. Here we are in this modern time where everybody has a cell phone. You'd think you'd be getting some incredible
Yeah.
images of poltergeists, of Bigfoot. and-
Yes.
But the other thing
Yeah,
that
and
we've
there's-
learned.
Oh, sorry.
No, the other thing. Sorry, the other thing that we, I feel like we're discovering is that people, even with Instagram and phones and everything, like people aren't all that great at taking pictures of videos.
That's true too.
I mean,
I know. Yeah.
I don't
I mean, you
know.
know more about it than me. Like, what do the pictures now of ghosts look like?
whoa.
Because I remember as a kid, I would.
Have
there
you
was-
seen the 2018 Ghost Yearbook? It's pretty fascinating.
well, you know,
No, there's not one.
Oh.
I'm just being a dick.
You should start
Being a
that.
dick, yeah.
Ghost yearbook.
That's
that
cool.
would
Yeah.
be pretty sweet.
I don't know. I just feel like also too. I still think that even though we're so used to having cameras in our phones and everything, I've tried to like. My dog will be in a cute position in front of me, and I will, by the time I reach for my phone, fucking unlock the code, get it on, switch it from video to camera or whatever, she's already moved. So, like, there is a thing where you have to react really quickly to get this stuff.
Well, not only that, I mean, you know, some would argue that they have the whatever these things are, whether they're Bigfoot or poltergeist, have the ability to make themselves recorded on our instruments or prevent
Right.
themselves from being recorded.
But just think,
you
have
know?
you ever had like your parents take a photo of you and a friend or something like that? Have you watched anyone above 50,
Yeah.
try to operate a camera on a cell
Right,
phone.
right.
We're not there yet. We're not there yet as a
No,
human species.
well, and you know, before Maria came in, she had said, you know, I had never seen a UFO video, and immediately Michael and I started Googling, and I was like, here's a great one taken from a Pentagon F-18 fighter
Yes.
pilot.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
And-
guess what? Footage exists and nobody thinks to look at it and they think it's all bullshit.
Well, what did you think?
aliens
What
are
did you
different
think of
than
that? Yeah,
Bigfoot. I feel like
Are they? Did
yeah.
you know
I
that Bigfoot might be an alien?
We've discussed we've
Oh, really?
Or an
explored
interdimensional creature? That
we've
slips in and
explored
out
a
of
connection
portals?
between cryptid, whether you call them monsters or something, but also there's a vast connection between, let's say, Bigfoot and aliens, and also spirits or elves. There seems to be a pretty good connection to
For
all these
example,
things.
stories of like fairy stuff that happened in
Mm-hmm.
the like stories that are popular like 1700s, 1800s. A lot of those stories involve like children or people disappearing in a fairy circle
Mhm.
Mhm.
and then coming back and have had experiences of missing time, and they see little gnome creatures that are 3 foot high.
That's
and
what
that
they talk
might,
about when
yeah,
they
like the old stories. And then if you look at the parallels of like fairy folklore with UFO folklore, they're very similar to like modern day abduction cases.
Mhm.
So there's an idea that some of whatever this other thing is, the other
Mhm.
has sort of shape shifted as our culture has shifted over time,
Mhm.
where 300, 400 years ago, they might appear as fairies or leprechauns. Now they appear, as our technology evolves, they appear as flying spacecraft and alien
Mhm.
grays.
Yeah, you know, they seem
Huh.
to a great ufologist, Jacques Vallée, seemed to make a note that, you know, whatever these things people are experiencing, whether location or whether time period, they seem to always be about just ahead of our technological prowess, or what we're perceiving in modern day. So, you know, the UFOs of the 1960s are different than the UFOs that we showed you today in 2018, you know. They sort of move along with our timeline. They evolve. They
Uh-huh,
change. They haven't
uh-huh.
stayed placid. You know, whatever it is that these people are experiencing, whether they're elves or fairies in the Middle Ages up to today's modern 3 foot gray aliens, they have adapted and they have moved along with our species evolution
And that
Uh-huh.
they
and our
might come from
perceptions.
another dimension, and from other dimensions we might emerge creatures like Bigfoot or the Mothman. And that's why we don't get a lot of footage of them or find them in their forest, because they're able to walk the line between our world and the other world.
Well, and there's another commonality between, like, let's say fairies or UFOs or aliens. You know, they can appear out of nowhere and they can disappear out of nowhere. And there's you know, the case that I'll share with you today, which is the high strangeness case, I'll be able to, you know, highlight some of these commonalities of these experiences from the people who have experienced them. And yeah, there's you know, Michael lent me a book, Supernatural by Graham Hancock, and he does a wonderful job of laying out the evidence of the commonalities from the hunter-gatherer societies in pre-industrial times, all the way up to the Middle Ages of the fairies, all the way up to present day UFO abduction experiences. There's a very, very I would say thick thread of commonality that you know, which makes it all
Maria,
very
would
interesting.
you ever
Can, I-
would
can
you
I,
ever
I-
do
can I ask a question?
Yeah,
sure.
I don't want to dumb down because I know that your listeners so I don't want to. So you can just like be like, no.
we
this is
don't
not
even
what-
know if there's people actually listening.
Oh, great. Then this is just for me. So is there physical evidence?
Tons.
Okay, because that's because what Michael and I started out trying to tell a story. Like, I don't believe in people's experiences.
Well,
I
and-
think people's experiences I think something happened, but I think that like
Well, you proved that
yes, that's what I'm saying.
yourself.
Like,
I'm just
that's
saying
what I'm
I was
saying.
right and
No.
you're wrong.
Okay,
No, it's a great point. I
But-
mean, listen, you know, and here's what can get so frustrating for guys like Michael and I is there's such a plethora of physical evidence, but even in our materialist world, we don't want to look at that and say, well, that'll suffice. You know, you can talk about cases where you have multiple witnesses seeing the same thing, leaving trace evidence on the ground where the UFO landed, scoop marks, implantations, actual physical
Implants.
devices left in people's bodies that are taken out by doctors
what?
and
then a lot of this-
examined under
and-
microscopic
Yeah, we'll talk about that today. And a lot of this stuff is sent off to
labs
agencies
and-
and labs, and it's not returned, doesn't come back, or it comes up inconclusive. and it's just kind of forgotten about.
Well, and people don't want to look at the evidence. You know, I mean, it's
And I think the
it can
government has a lot of the physical evidence. They said in that report from the New York Times from December 18th, they were talking about how the Pentagon has a warehouse facility. This is confirmed.
Yeah.
With recovered materials.
High technology materials. We've
not of our own.
Not
literally.
of our,
that's what they're saying. And Harry Reid was behind. One of the guys, Senator Harry Reid, was behind a lot of this stuff.
And they still shut down the program due to disinterest. I mean, so that just goes to show you, like,
well, the program is.
He says it's still running.
It's still running, but
the head
guy,
of the director,
guy
Louis
who he
Elizondo.
left. He left because there's still a stigma within the Pentagon, within the government itself. This was such top secret stuff that they were not allowed to talk about it. And within the departments, they were interdepartments. If it was brought up or if it cleared certain areas, there were huge portions of the military and the Pentagon that was like, that's bullshit, because they didn't have access to this information. And one of the reasons he quit was he said, I can actually do more good raising awareness of this stuff by not being in the Pentagon anymore and talking about it publicly. And there are still things that are top secret, classified top secret, that he cannot speak about.
He's working with that dude from Blink 182 now, who's got his own.
Well, but you know who else was involved with that whole thing was Robert Bigelow.
Yeah.
Who we brought up a number of times.
He's another big player in the field.
All right, before we move on, so you Ghost, you're open to Bigfoot, sure. UFOs, maybe, probably.
No,
not.
I feel like UFOs much more than Bigfoot. Actually, I mean,
Cool.
that's like infinite possibilities of things coming.
Yeah.
You know,
No,
we're trying to get out there, so it's in my imagination that somebody who's like more advanced than we are.
Well,
I just think it's hard to keep a secret, and they must be better beings than us by not fucking us up.
Oh yeah,
you know?
well I think
because
that,
as soon as we got to a planet, we would not.
Well, I think that's the thing. You have to. I always think of two things. One, they evolved long enough that they didn't destroy themselves as a civilization. So they evolved long enough to gain the technology and the power to achieve
dimensional travel,
interdimensional travel or intergalactic travel. And then two, I think that whoever's being sent over, they're probably like when we go to, I say this all the time, I'm sorry to repeat myself, but it's like we're studying animals, or we might study ants. You know, they're trying to not get involved. They might tag us.
Sort of the Star Trek Prime Directive.
Yeah,
you know,
they're trying not
don't
to,
get involved in their affairs.
Yeah. Let's take a break, and when we come back, High Strangeness Story of the Week with Bryce.
Hey guys, Bryce Johnson here. Each week, we post exclusive photos with our guests and great visual aids on Instagram at Bigfoot Collectors Club and on Facebook and Twitter at Bigfoot_C Club. Check them out. You don't want to miss them. Thanks for listening.
And we're back.
And we're
it's
back.
Time for High Strangeness.
Yeah, and before I get into that, I wanted to offer some statistical information, which I think is great, which might shed some light on the modern day experience. In an exhaustive series of 3 national polls conducted by the Roper Organization in 1991 has established that approximately 1 out of every 5 adult Americans has, at one time or another in their lives, woken up paralyzed with the sense of a strange figure or presence in the room. In addition, nearly 1 adult in 8 has experienced a period of 1 hour or more in which he or she was apparently lost but could not remember why. 1 adult in 10 has felt the experience of actually flying through the air without knowing why or how. 1 adult in 12 has seen unusual lights or balls of light in a room without understanding what was causing them. And 1 adult in 12 has discovered puzzling scars on his or her body without remembering how or where they were acquired. And based on the sample of nearly 6,000 respondents, that puts it at about 1 out of every 50 adult Americans may have had a UFO abduction experience.
That sorry. That
I'm
seems
probably backing you up a lot.
like a lot of bullshit.
Oh.
I mean, I feel like I can say myself for all those things. What? Been scared at night because there might be a person.
Maria. Why have you forgotten about me, Maria? All those wonderful nights we spent together.
Are you the alien that abducted me?
Oh, don't act like you don't know me.
Well, and, you know,
I would have continued this relationship if you had just
you're right. These seem like commonality
shown up on time.
experiences.
missing spots in a room? Sure, I have glaucoma. What are the other ones?
Well,
Not forgetting where you were for an hour at a time.
You just
yeah,
described
that's every Friday night.
Honestly, you just described who Maria is
Yeah.
in a nutshell.
Well,
And also, I think she might have been abducted by aliens.
which is why I think,
That would explain more than just why you are the way you are.
which is why I think you're gonna like this high strangeness portion of the podcast, because this is not so much an incident, but this is a person who has lent more credibility to the field of these abduction experiences than probably any other person.
And collected stories of high
collected-
strangeness himself.
And this is the story of John E. Mack, Harvard PhD. John Edward Mack was a Pulitzer Prize-winning biographer and a professor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School. He won the Pulitzer in biography in 1977 for A Prince of Our Disorder. It was a biography of T.E. Lawrence, a British officer stationed in the Middle East who became known as Lawrence of Arabia. So, in 1990, longtime Fred Bud Hopkins, who's considered sort of the father of abduction phenomena, Bud Hopkins was an American painter and sculptor. He introduced John Mack to the complex world of UFOs, alien visitation, and abductions. Now, initially, John was suspected that such persons were suffering from some sort of type of mental illness, or perhaps
Have you met my friend Maria?
or hallucinations. But when no obvious pathologies were present in the persons he began to interview, he knew there must be more to the story. So with that, John Mack commenced on a decade-long study of over 200 men and women who reported recurrent alien encounter experiences, including but not limited to being taken aboard alien spacecraft, aliens performing surgeries on their abductees, and leaving implants, visible scars, and possibly the most strange is the abductees being shown what appears to be an alien-human hybrid breeding program. Now, many of those he interviewed reported that their encounters had deeply affected the way they regarded the world, including producing a heightened sense of spirituality and environmental concern. To this day, John Mack remains one of the most esteemed academics to have ever studied the subject, which is a great thing for the UFO field, obviously. Now, but not only that, he was criticized by his peers for taking the abduction reports at face value. Mack always said, I don't believe these, it's not about belief, because belief is such it's a contaminated word, but I take them seriously. Quote, I don't have a way to account for them, adding, I would never say, yes, there are aliens taking people, but I would say there is a compelling, powerful phenomenon here that I can't account for in any other way that's mysterious. Yet I can't know what it is, but it seems to me that it invites a deeper, further inquiry. Mack noted there was a wonderful history of visionary experiences, especially in pre-industrial hunter-gatherer societies. He also suggested that these accounts might be best to be considered as part of the larger tradition of visionary and shamanic encounters with spirits. His interest in the spiritual and transformational aspects of people's alien encounters, and his suggestion that the experience of alien contact itself may be more transcendent than physical in nature, yet nonetheless real. He set him apart from many of his contemporaries, such as his buddy Bud Hopkins, who advocated the physical reality of aliens. So here's a guy, a Harvard PhD, I believe he was the head of his department's psychology division, who really took on a case that was pretty much taboo, and he was almost crucified for it.
It's cool. He's kind of the guys that that like Venkman and Stans and Ghostbusters are based on, these parapsychologists. Like he's like the real version.
Yeah.
Although they were dealing with ghosts, this was kind of that field of study of course, sort of going into fringe psychology.
Yeah,
Sure.
It's interesting. I mean, it's interesting also how he parses it, because he doesn't say that there's aliens. He just says, "I take these people seriously."
Yeah.
Which that's so respectful, and
Well, that's-
and that there's something I do believe for sure that there is I mean, there's so much that we don't know, and who knows whether it's aliens or Jesus Christ
Yeah.
or like whatever.
Buddha consciousness, whatever.
Maybe it's like it's what it's sort of like what you were saying about like how the alien, how they change their
Shapeshift.
they shapeshift.
Sure.
Maybe we are shapeshifting.
Maria.
What we say? Yes, alien.
I
that I
am standing before you, an alien in front of a woman, trying to show you my love.
You know, Maria, he was just like you when you walked in here. He had really no personal interest or experience
Same with Linda S. Godfrey
with UFO phenomenon.
and the Dogman shit.
He was sucked into this world. Now, where it gets interesting is his Harvard peers, they were not too excited about all this, needless to say. And in May 1994, the dean of Harvard Medical School appointed a committee of peers to confidentially review Mack's clinical investigation of the people who had shared their alien encounters. In a BBC article written by Angela Hyatt, she writes, and I quote, "It was the first time in Harvard's history that a tenured professor was subjected to an investigation." Mack described the investigation as Kafkaesque. He never quite knew the status of this ongoing investigation, and the nature of his critics' complaint were not revealed to Mack until the committee had prepared a draft report 8 months into the process. Now, the committee chairman said, quote, "To communicate in any way whatsoever to a person who has reported a close encounter with an extraterrestrial life form that this experience might well have been real is professionally irresponsible." Also stating, "John, listen, if you would have just claimed that this was an unknown psychological syndrome, we wouldn't have had such a problem with it. But since you started saying, people are being taken by little green men, we got a problem here."
First of all, no one calls it little green men. That is not an expression that people fucking
right.
use.
Also, was he saying that, or he was just saying like, "I'm listening to these people"?
He was, so, what would happen was he would use regression therapy. So a lot of these cases kind of came to him, and they would regress in therapy, and he would start to uncover vast commonalities.
Is it under hypnosis?
Yes, under regressional hypnosis. And these people, so let's say like you were talking about,
that's a tricky
I've
thing.
seen something in my room, it was a light, I can't explain, but they know there's more. So they reach out to these people who are being taken seriously, like psychiatrist John
I've been
Mack.
telling Maria for years
Yeah.
if she would just undergo hypnosis,
Will you
maybe she would
please
I
stay
know.
remember.
Will you please stay out of my bedroom?
Yeah.
Glaxor has access to everything.
Yeah.
Glaxor
Well,
sees all.
under
Glaxor's still respectful
Jesus.
of Maria.
under aggression, these people would find out some terrifying things. Some not so terrifying. A lot of these abductees had a strange feeling of a connection to or a spiritual thing. But it gets really weird. Where do I want to go with this? Oh, so during the investigation, John found support from Harvard professor of law Alan Dershowitz, who questioned the validity of investigating a tenured professor who was not suspected of ethics violations or professional misconduct. So
They just didn't like him because he was talking about UFOs.
yeah, no,
Wait,
it's
who is
very
Alan
true.
Dershowitz?
He's a famous law professor out of Harvard.
Yeah.
But what he uncovered is from these testimonies of over 200 men and women, really just changed his whole world paradigm, which often happens with these researchers who go into these things. To mention another guy, Rick Strassman, he was a professor out of New Mexico who wrote a book called DMT, the Spirit Molecule. It was the first government-condoned research into injecting actual DMT into volunteers. And he just went into this, going, hey, I want to learn if there's any, kind of medical...
Kind of like a sleep study almost.
Yeah.
And then these people were like, I'm in another dimension. I'm speaking to higher intelligent beings.
What's common here
Really
is that
cool shit.
as soon as they go under, they say I am experiencing other forms of intelligent life around me in this physical dimension. And what's interesting about that case, and I'm kind of getting off the topic of Mack, but he conducted this in a laboratory where these people experienced like going to other places. Meanwhile, they're right there in a lab gown. They're
like
not going
in
anywhere.
Just in their minds.
In their minds,
But
or in
we
or
all
in
do-
their,
we all
or
do
in their
that, right?
consciousness.
all
but
the
what is
time.
the
Yeah.
mind? What is
We
consciousness?
do it every night when we go to sleep and we
Yeah.
dream.
That
you
book
do it
is
every
incredible,
single
by
second
the way.
you
It's sitting
drive.
on the bookshelf right there.
Yeah,
That's worthy of an episode of it. If
Oh,
it's-
yeah.
it really is,
Yeah.
and we'll have to crack into that. But let's veer back to John
Ain't
Mack.
no party like a DMT party.
and he, he felt
That is true.
Sorry.
he felt that these
I wouldn't know.
These people were experiencing something so traumatic, so life altering that they needed a champion, and he really became that champion and uncovered all kinds of commonalities of
Will you
of
tell
these
us the story
abduction.
that you were telling me about the school kids what was that?
Well,
The
yeah.
60 kids?
So towards the end of his life, he was, he was killed by a drunk driver, I believe, in 1990,
Oh no.
in 2004. So I might have that wrong, but
Was it a drunk driver or was it the Winter Soldier?
yeah, I know. Who knows?
Or the Mothman. I don't know who the Winter Soldier
Well,
is.
towards the end of his life, Dr. Mack embraced.
You would never see Marvel movies with me. If you had just come to see Captain America, the Winter Soldier, you would understand my references. You just don't get me, Maria, and now I'm remembering why.
Would you
It
imagine?
did not work out.
You should regress and see if that there actually is that alien for you. Oh my God, that sounds like my friend Michael doing the alien. Towards the end of his life, Mack embraced a worldview inspired by elements of spiritual and philosophical traditions which hold that we're all connected to one another. Before he was killed by a drunk driver in September of 2004, Dr. John Mack and his research associates, Dominique Kalinopoulos, traveled to Zimbabwe to research one of the most extraordinary group sightings in UFO history. And in recent times, it's simply known as the aerial phenomenon. On September 16th, 1994, at the Aerial Primary School in Rua, Zimbabwe, 60 children reported seeing a landed UFO during recess, upon which two occupants exited the craft and started floating towards the children. Now, this sparked an immense interest in something like this, because here's 60 kids out playing when they all see this craft land on a hillside, and they all started taking they all would draw pictures of what they saw, and they all described the same thing. 60 kids.
There's something
You
about...
know who's easy to manipulate? Children.
No, but
You know who's easy to control what they do? It's children.
No, but there's the thing. But there are tons of cases. There's one that Graham Hancock has talked about. There was another recess thing where these kids in, I think, Ireland or England saw gnome-like creatures all descend in tiny cars.
Yeah, tiny
during
cars.
recess.
You guys, sorry, I just remembered that I do know someone that had an alien abduction.
Oh,
Okay.
But he was a pathological liar.
right. Well,
Not mutually exclusive.
No, it's not. Of course, it's not.
Well,
Where, like, if there's implants, like, if there's so many implants that people are having this experience, there must be some physical evidence that's not controlled by the government.
that's the Roger Lear episode.
know,
We did that.
sorry.
We'll have to check that one out. No,
Sorry, I will.
but I want
I
to.
will listen to
I,
it.
I want to address what
Now
you.
you're finally
Now I
speaking
am.
my language.
I understand.
I want to address what you say about your friend who was a pathological liar, because this is what obviously John Mack was hesitant to get into it, because so many of these abductees, what they have in common is they don't want to tell their story.
Look, I'm
they
into
don't,
John Mack.
they don't,
I'm into John Mack. He sounds cool.
they don't want to be part of this club.
Yeah.
They don't want to. They're hesitant of telling their story. They feel feelings of a shame. They're not just people who like, hey, I have an alien story I'd love to tell you. I mean, these are people who have had a traumatic experience. And
Yeah.
what he's finding when under their regression is that this isn't just like something that these people are making up. There is a real phenomenon happening.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is when you start to mesh the real phenomenon of their stories with actual physical trace evidence, like the video we just showed you, which just is like, hey, something is taking place in this world, and it's kind of breaking down our materialist paradigm. Something's happening.
Yeah.
Did he were there like specific stuff, like did he come to a conclusion of like, okay, I think alien greys exist? Are there any cases of like specific beings or specific creatures that would talk to his patients?
The aliens appear to be consummate shapeshifters, wrote Mack, often appearing initially to the abductees as animals. Owls, eagles, raccoons, and deer are among creatures abductees have seen initially. The aliens themselves seem to be able to change or disguise their form, and may appear initially to the abductees as various kinds of animals, or even as ordinary human beings. John Mack also confirms that their shape-shifting abilities extend to their vehicles, which would explain that case in Ireland when they came out as like almost little clown figures driving little cars, and all the kids say, yeah, they look like little clowns, which begs the question, where did the idea of clowns come from? I mean, are these something that,
Oh yeah.
anyway?
I have a question for you guys.
Sure.
Have you guys discussed what like different religions and aliens and mythography? No, that's not
Mythology.
mythology.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But just like the different things that keep, like Joseph Campbell, kind of like the
Yeah.
same
Yeah, the
story that
monomyth.
everybody keeps talking
Yeah,
about.
comparative
Yeah.
mythology.
We brought this up in, I think, episode 13 or 14. I think it was with Michael Morisi. We were talking about with the Voronezh alien landing. The monomyth came up, and like we've barely scratched the surface on this.
All religions of the world share a commonality that that there's something, their creation story takes place of something from the sky, some sort of godlike serpentine creatures. They all have experiences of sort of
in Supernatural, they found cave paintings of in I think this is in like South America and Central America.
yeah.
But they have like, there's a tradition where the ancient shamans used to teach their tribes knowledge that they would learn after ascending into the sky and being pierced with lances, and then gaining knowledge and experience from a higher intelligence, and then coming back down and teaching their tribe. And now a lot of times they were experiencing this.
It's married with pain.
Well,
Yeah.
but here's the thing. So a lot of the times they were doing drinking ayahuasca and doing ayahuasca ceremonies to reach these states of consciousness to access that other world. But the pierced man is very similar to UFO cases of people being taken up into the sky and then operated on with the needles. Like there's that famous shot from Fire in the Sky, the Travis Walton story, where there's that like long needle piercing his eyeball. And
Yeah,
this test that these aliens.
the surgery ones.
Right.
Jerry, one of Mack's patients, remembered an abduction in which she was brought into a large spaceship with a domed roof and then into a circular room which was shiny and metallic. Here, small, dark, human-like beings performed incomprehensible tests on other bodies under the guidance of a taller, lighter entity who she thought of as the leader. So there's a commonality of like all these like tiny little gray aliens performing surgeries. And where it gets really weird is sort of the sexual encounters that a lot of these abductees have revealed, and being shown their kind of alien hybrid children, and that's what compares to the old fairy lores,
In fairy lore, they were always trying to take human babies, and that's where the changeling myth came from, was that a fairy queen or a fairy king would take a human child and replace it with a changeling, which was sort of this like dummy baby, or this baby that looked like their baby that wasn't
listless,
and they think
small,
and they think a lot of this stuff may have come from illnesses or things that were happening with children at the time, and people were sort of like, this is not my baby, this is a sick baby, and maybe the baby dies. And one of the ways it's like it's been taken by the fairies. If you remember Peter Pan, he was a child that was taken by the fairies in the Kensington Garden. But in the monomyth of fairies and aliens, there's a recurring theme of the alien consciousness trying to merge themselves with the physical beings of humans. And so you get these stories of alien human hybrids, and for some reason they're trying to merge the two of them. Now it's I don't know what that's about. I don't know if it's just subject testing and trying to create, weird chimeras through mad science, but like that is one of the reoccurring themes that happens in a lot of this folklore.
Is there part of like alien, like, I mean, people really, is there a part of alien belief that there is it's a higher intelligence in terms of like taking care of? I mean, I feel like that's a definite need in people. I mean, I think that's why we got Trump as a president. Like somebody was like, we need someone to take care of us.
No, a common theme is like nuclear proliferation, the danger of our economy and our environmental standards. We are depleting this planet. Some would say that maybe he seemed to have a sense that whatever these things were, perhaps they didn't come from an extraterrestrial source. In other words, they didn't come from planet Zeta Reticuli, but perhaps that they were already here on this material plane. And here we are as a human evolution species developing and overtaking these natural resources. And they're saying, they're on another dimension saying, hey, you're fucking up our world too.
The Celts had something in their mythology called the Darwin Shi, and it's where the term Sith comes from, like that Lucas borrowed that.
Sure.
And the Darwin Shi were like the hinter people, the other people, and they fit into the category of the alien greys or the fairy folk, that they were of another dimension that could interact with this world and would often take other people from this world into their world. And I think that there is something to the idea of, what if these aliens, whatever they are, really do exist in a parallel dimension that is more of a spiritual, a higher spiritual plane than ours, right?
Yeah, no.
And so, because you have the missing time, all this stuff in the old stories, men who wandered into the fairy kingdom and ate the food would be trapped there forever, or would come back, and years, hours, if not years, had passed. And so maybe that's what this is, and maybe there is some to the idea of this. They are from another realm, completely trying to, but they have almost a better understanding of the natural world than we do. We're trapped in, we are connected to nature, but we are so heavily materialistic as well.
John Mack had a sense that alien abductions are more spiritual rather than a material problem, but nevertheless real and able to manifest themselves in this world. And that's where it gets so interesting for me. And I know you bring this up too. Where's the physical evidence, And you hear of these accounts, but when you actually look at the case studies and you're able to combine physical trace evidence with these people's account testimony, that's where things get really creepy and weird. And I was just, Mike and I on the way over here, we were talking about the Brooklyn Bridge abduction case. Now, this is a case where
we're going to talk
about this more later, but here's a case where you have witnesses on the Brooklyn Bridge seeing a lady being lifted by a ray beam and 5 little gray aliens in a fetal position
including
next to her.
Including a UN ambassador and 2 of his bodyguards.
2 of his bodyguards.
But eyewitness testimony, even in terms, this is what I'm talking about, is like eyewitness testimony is like worthless. In like courts of law, it's like worthless.
If it's you trying to identify who is or is not Thomas Middleditch.
No,
now here's the
been
thing.
so many studies, even like trained observers.
We got to wrap this up. Unfortunately,
sorry,
I do have to leave.
It's
real
true.
quick, what do you think? If you have any leap, if you we asked our question to our guests, what the hell was that? What do you think this stuff is that these people are experiencing?
I think it's the same thing that, I've heard, I grew up in a very religious household, and I heard people in my family had like God talking to them. Like, and they can say, God said this, and then they can say the words, and then it was so profound to them that they changed their life after it. So it wasn't just like a dream or something. I'm not saying it was real.
I'm just saying revelation.
It was real enough that they like made huge changes in their life. And I think my best guess is all this stuff is just like, it's just like me seeing Thomas Middleditch and you seeing
Do you think it's connected to the realm of dogma of God and devil? Do you think do you think that aliens are similar to spirits, or is there a relation or a connection there?
I wouldn't even say it's connected to. I don't even know God and devil. Like, I don't know. I just think there's something. I think that's even presumptuous for me. It's like there's so much that we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Like 200 years ago, we didn't know a lot of stuff, and now we know more. And if we survive another 1,000 years, we'll know more. But right now, we're surrounded by mystery.
That's a great point.
I think the one ghost we've been able to prove exists today is the lingering specter of our relationship. And I want to thank you for coming on the show.
If you always talked in that alien voice, maybe we would have had a chance.
I'm just speaking in the only voice I know how to express extreme emotions.
Oh my God. Well, I'd love to leave you with a quote.
Let's do it.
The abduction phenomenon forces us, if we permit ourselves to take it seriously, to re-examine our perception of human identity, to look at who we are from a cosmic perspective, end quote. And that's from John E. Mack, Harvard psychiatrist and Pulitzer Prize winner.
Johnny Mack.
Thank you, Johnny Mack.
All right.
Okay, well,
What?
Maria has to run, so we're going to say thank you now and goodbye to you now and say
We're gonna.
Well,
Do you have any
and you and I-
collector's
what-
items?
and then what do you guys-
we'll-
and then
you
what
I
do you
will
guys
come back
gonna
with the
do?
quick collector's
Oh,
item.
I'm sorry that I can't be a part
That's
of that.
okay. We also introduced a new segment at the top of the show, so I
Okay,
took
great.
You
a
got to be a
little
part of that.
Oh, great.
time.
I mean,
Well,
I was.
real quick,
I
did
loved
you ever
it.
did you ever collect anything?
I collected. I collect ex-boyfriends.
There's one now.
Hello.
No, I collected comic books as a kid, but
Who were your favorite characters?
um,
Spider-Man.
no, Spider-Man. I was Spider-Man twice for Halloween, but I don't remember having a Spider-Man. I just remember having like a Feeling Groovy comic book. That's not a comic book that anyone collects anymore.
I like that. Feeling groovy. I would do it.
You're a weird child of the
I
70s.
know.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
What a pleasure it was
We're
to
gonna
have
get
you on
you
the
out
Yeah, it
of
was
show.
here.
really fun.
And Bryce and I will be back in a moment with Riley with a quick collector's corner and a wrap up of the show. Thanks, guys.
Sweet.
Thank you, Maria.
Pleasure.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Bryce Johnson from Bigfoot Collectors Club. Listen, if you have a paranormal story, we want to hear it. Write to BigfootCollectorsClub@gmail.com with your paranormal encounter, and we just might read it on a future episode.
And we're back with Collector's Corner. But before that, producer Riley Bray.
I was just thinking about that conversation we were having about the monomyth and religion and everything, and just wanted to bring up one, that there's so many sky vehicles in all these scriptures. Like in the Bhagavad Gita, there's the chariots.
That's full of like a UFO battle in that.
Absolutely, it's a
like,
full-on UFO
yeah.
battle. Yeah, it's all over the Bible too. And
The
then
chariots and
Yeah.
Ezekiel's wheel.
Sure.
Mhm. And then you started talking about
Jinx, by me,
the whole you owe him in Ezekiel now. The whole thing about the breeding program is like, okay, sky god, alien mother, who does that remind me of? Oh yeah, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Like that's
And we have demigods all over Greek mythology. I mean, Zeus was abducting, for to make a nice of a term of this as we can. Like, there's so many stories of Zeus shape-shifting
Yeah.
and
Fully.
abducting women
it's all over Greek
and
mythology.
impregnating them. And there was another one that I was just thinking of.
You've
I
got the
lost it, but-
Anunnaki in the Bible, the
Anunnaki,
giants from the sky.
Yeah, that was
breed with the
Sumerian
humans.
myth, and
Yeah.
then in the Old Testament there were there was like the sons of angels and the sons of Adam. They were like different
Right.
species. The Nephilim is like an old one. Zacharias hitchens into
Yeah.
that stuff. So there are all these myths of like
It
you've
just-
got the angels, you've got the humans, and then you have something that is in between those two,
hybrids,
the
yeah.
hybrids.
Well, without a doubt, something has been taking place since time immemorial. It was since the beginning of human civilization. We've been experiencing through country, through culture, something supernatural that is taking place and having an interaction with us here on the physical plane.
And what did I mean? Yeah, it's just like I go back to that very first thing and that entity looking in the window at my dog. And again, my gut instinct was telling me it didn't drop out of a UFO. It came from a different plane and was crossing through.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
And the more I hear about this stuff, the more we get in and dig in, the more I'm starting to double down harder and harder on like, this makes so much sense to me that these things come from a different dimension.
I'm starting to make those same kind of conclusions. I mean, John Mack made that same conclusion that, something real is happening. I can't say if it's, gray aliens from Zeta Reticuli coming here, but I will tell you that something is happening that is real, that is actually taking place and leaving real evidence. But he's just left with question marks, just like us. But to ignore the fact, but to not really recognize or do the comparisons, I think is a disservice to humanity and to science and to our future state. I really do. I think this is I don't know. I mean, you would like to think that, hey, we're evolving. This stuff's opening up. But obviously, like we were talking about earlier, when the Pentagon reveals that, hey, we have these programs and still not a lot of people are talking about it and can still look at us like we're crazy for talking about it.
But I think that is just evidence of how information is distributed in this day and age and how it's so scattershot and widespread and how much the mainstream media focuses on such a narrow field.
I don't think it's the media, Mike. I think it's evidence that people like to live in a box.
I don't know. Look
People have a closed paradigm loop. They don't want to allow new information into that will
I,
change the paradigm.
I disagree only because, like, look at what we're doing here, right? And we have a small following, but this show's growing in audience. And P.S. Thank you, everybody.
For
Sidebar
sure.
for listening
Yeah,
to the
thank you.
show. It's so awesome. I mean, I made a joke earlier, but you guys are listening, and our audience is growing. And I know that I've heard from a few of you who weren't necessarily into this topic before the show, and that is even cooler.
I've always
But
said,
people are listening. But it takes people, not to pat ourselves on the back, but we have an opportunity with a format like podcasting that we can get some of this information out more and talk about this and make more conversations. If we can destigmatize some of these encounters, then we're doing like a little bit of good work.
I've always
Is that okay to say?
absolutely,
so.
absolutely.
Right? I mean, it's not the most important.
It is
thing,
important, Mike. And that's
but-
what John Mack felt. He said, these people need a champion. And I've always said it, and I'll always say it. For you to completely dismiss the UFO, Bigfoot, whatever phenomenon, just means you haven't taken the time to look at the information and the data available. Because once you do, there's no turning back, because there is a plethora of physical evidence, testimonial evidence, photographic evidence.
This is not the most important topic by any means, but this is a corner of the shared human experience. And that's all we're trying to do is shed a little light on that.
And have a little fun.
Yeah, exactly. It's called a club.
Hell yeah.
Before that, it's called a Collectors Club.
Speaking of fun.
Speaking of which, this was a gift. This is piggybacking off your Archie McPhee Bigfoot from last week. I have the Archie McPhee Bigfoot bandages. These were a gift from my buddy Dex, who is going through a really hard time right now. And so he could use a couple Band-Aids, I think, spiritually or otherwise. Great guy. Dex, I want to say thank you for these Bigfoot bandages. I want to give you a big shout out and tell you that I'm thinking about you. And I love you, bro. And I know it's a little cryptic, but
it's beautiful.
No, it's just a nice gift from a buddy of mine who's going through a rough time. So
Copy that.
thinking about you, friend. But check out these Bigfoot bandages. They're pretty great.
Yeah, and thanks for leaving one in the book you left me, man.
Yeah, man. This is for your cast, which has been replaced a couple of times, I think. How's that foot healing up?
It's healing, man, day by day.
How many more weeks you got in that thing?
I think I got another 4 to 5 weeks before I can start physical training again. So it's like learning to walk again. But hey, I've taken a new perspective, and I'm soul committed to coming out of this with new positives in my life. So I didn't break my foot. I healed myself.
Nice.
Amen.
Yeah, that's the
good.
truth, man. There's a big mental aspect to healing, and there's hard science behind that too. Is that your perspective going into healing and your mindset goes a long way.
Yeah, and there was a lot leading up to this. Maybe one day I'll be willing to share some of it, but yeah, it's been quite an ordeal, quite an experience, and
you were kind of feeling like maybe you needed to slow down for a second and take stock. Or?
I don't know, Mike. I mean, it was a very weird thing, and when I start to just put together the story and connect the dots, it's pretty weird.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, when you're ready to share that,
Will do.
yeah, we'd love to hear it.
Copy that.
You're in a safe place. This is a safe place.
I gotta go.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram. I'm McMills on Instagram. Mr. Bryce Johnson. Trash bag hashtag over here. Please find us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play. Please subscribe. Please rate and review. It just helps us get the show to more people. It really makes a difference, and we really appreciate you guys listening. As always, I want to thank our guest Maria Thayer, and I want to thank our producer Riley Bray, and the band Suneaters for our music from the song "Come Alone," courtesy of Lotuspool Records.
Thanks for listening.
We'll be back on Friday with a very special episode.
Can't wait.